Hello, hello. It's Friday, it's episode 178. It's the 9th. It's the 9th of May. It is the 9th of May. Hello, Chocy Chat. How's everybody doing? I can see Stuart, the blind chocolatier. How are you, sir? He posted, he's had some new colours this week. He's been playing with those. Did some nice things. Dr. Mara, hello, hello. Kate Mudge, I can see you. Ruth Kendrick. How is everybody doing? Alice, I can see. How's everybody's doing? Is everybody doing good? Oh God, who else have we got? I'm going to say something. Emir Chef, hello. Who else have we got? Chocolates by Neander, good evening and happy days. Yeah, happy days. Busy week. I'll tell you what, we ran out of time this week. We truly ran out of time this week. Just not enough. There's just not enough hours in the day for us this week. So, Gina there, Surfer Lake Chocolates down New Zealand. Hello. Paula at Fusion Chocolates. Kelly's joined. How you doing? Bean to Bean. Hello. There's a new name. I haven't seen you before, but hello and welcome. Leanne, that's Sydney Williams saying hello. Do we deliver to the United Arab Emirates? Yes, we do. We send a lot of orders, actually. There's quite big pickup in orders recently with the work that we've done in the Middle East, certainly out in Bahrain and Qatar, and Saudi as well. Big Saudi. So all of the Gulf Peninsula, all the GCC countries, we ship to all of them, including Oman. Nikki Parsons, I can see. How do you get... Nikki, I saw your post on the Chocy Chat. We need to do a class, because I think I saw the chocolates that you turned out. And there's lots of people have had a guess at what went wrong with that. And I can tell you right now, I don't want to name and shame and do all that kind of thing. The tempering of the cocoa butter was good. The shelling temperature changed as you went along the mould. I've got a mould. So where you poured the chocolate, you've gone, I'm guessing right, you've gone right to left. I suspect you kind of started in the middle and went round like that. But we need to do a class. We can resolve all of that. Trust me, we can resolve all of that. The shine was there, the shell was there, the thickness edge was there. I think there was a difference. I think there was there's a biscuit crumb that you put in the base that was too warm. And what that's done is, you can see as you go through the mould, the very first few got really damaged. And by the time you got to the second line, it cooled down a little bit, which they're the ones that when you turn them out, they were at the top and they look good. And they progressively got worse as we went down the mould. That's because when you turn it that way, that's the way that you'd filled it. I suspect. I see a lot of chocolate, so I'm quite good at guessing what went wrong and what didn't go right. So, all part of the service. Mo the Baker, George Keller, how are you, sir? Mrs. So Sassy saying good evening, everybody. Happy days, happy days. Yeah, happy days. Greetings, Sydney saying greetings for everybody from sunny Florida. We've had lovely weather today. It's not been, it's not chocolate making. Let me tell you how my week went. I had the moulds from, these are the moulds from the cricket balls. That's a corporate order that I have that's kind of wholesale, so it doesn't go in boxes, it goes up in bulk. It's quite a few thousand. And that was can we just have some more? I'll stop everything that I'm doing and make that, because that's the contract, that's the stuff that we signed, so we've got to get that stuff done. And then we had some challenges this week, and when I say the week went by like we've run out of time at every point. We have a traceability system and we labelled all the bottles and everything, and then we had a massive technical glitch, right? I'm going to explain the bottles, because you'll see a QR code on it, and I'll explain what's going on with that. But that would be that one there, that QR code there. We had a slight technical hitch. So we had a very long day, I think, Monday, where we had to relabel absolutely every single item of all the whole stock, so thousands and thousands of bottles. So we relabeled it. Then we launched it and everything was good, and then we had a massive technical hitch, and then we kind of had to start again. And we've had quite a few days of starting at 7 in the morning, working all the way through till 3 in the morning. Thursday morning when we finished at 3 a.m, all the system's good and it's all working, and we have got a fantastic developer, Andy at Purple Web Creations, who answers all the questions, got us all through this. The traceability system, it's it's expensive to run, it's very necessary now that we're shipping to all the places that we're shipping to, but you have these glitches, and you're like, oh, it's going to be a long night. And for Rania and I don't have to do the majority of this. It's she sits on the computer and she does all this stuff in the background. But true appreciation for what she has to do, and then also Andy at Purple Web just like getting us through this kind of glitchy bit. So very, very late nights and very early starts, and then, you know, before you know it, it's Friday. And yeah, here we are. Mo the Baker, hello. Mo the Baker's just back from London. Whoa. Philip Vieira in Austria, hello. Vicky, I can see. I'm not going to lie, VE Day went by and passed for us. We had stuff going on at the factory, colours and butters going on here, traceability things, website things, chocolate orders. When I say the week, like it feels like a day and a half since I last sat here on Chocy Chat last Friday. You're hoping to crack out some good ones tomorrow. Every time you make chocolate, it's temperature related, right? So everything we do is temperature related. I've said this, my favourite statement. We're lucky enough, very fortunate. We have some very, very clever equipment, and you know, not just here but also at the factory as well. Very clever equipment. It's probably the most important thing that I own. It's one of the few brands that I do work with, Therm Pen. Temperature is everything. For anybody that's doing anything with chocolate, temperature is everything. I made chocolates the other day, and I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm spraying. We had the big Q5 Platinum system out and spraying happily. I'm taking temperatures 200, 300, 400, 500 times, right, throughout that process. Whether it's temporary chocolate, doing colours, measuring moulds, measuring fridges. When it gets to the fillings, like if you're above 29 degrees. You could just end up damaging everything. And I have seen people put stuff in a bag, give it a touch and go, yeah, that's okay. You need to test the temperature of it, and it's, you know, if it's like if you're piping caramels, 29 degrees, absolutely perfect. It should be fluid enough, right? But if you start dropping down to the 26, it gets too thick. So that when you pipe, same with ganache, you end up with these little raised mountains, and then they're impossible to cap. And it's the same as overfilling bonbons. You know, if you overfill them and then you try and cap, you end up smearing. Two things happen, right? If that filling goes above the level of that mould, there is no way to repair this, okay? Because what happens is, when you cap, you end up spreading the filling along the chocolate, and then the capping chocolate that comes off at the end has then got a bit of filling in, or it's got caramel in, and then that starts to become problematic next time you use it and you want to temper it. Secondly, if you cap and you can see the filling through it, there's no real way to cover that. I guess you could do acetate over the top and give it a very light, but you're going to end up with lumpy bumpy. So overfilling moulds or the filling that's too warm either causes damage on that side or damage on that side. And I've seen so many people fill piping bags and twist it in a big knot and leave it on the side, and what happens with that is you've got this big balloon of filling, and the bottom layer where it's touching a solid surface, that cools down very, very quick on the top layer, and you end up with this core down the middle that narrows. That can still be really, really warm. My honest opinion, having, you know, I've seen lots of businesses, talked to lots of businesses, seen all the mistakes, worked in kitchens, seen all the mistakes. Fill the piping bag, lay it flat, get it cool, and then tie the knot in it and use it, right? Don't tie knots in all of them and line them all up, because you'll get very varying temperatures as you go across that. If you lay it flat, you get a thin layer. So your piping bag wants to, when you fill it, open that end, but don't open it all the way to the bottom. Open it about halfway, fill the bag, and you'll find it all goes all the way to the bottom without an air bubble. Lay that, I tend to fill it, I fold that over, I lay it flat until it's all coated, because you've got a thinner layer in it, you can flip them and it cools down quicker. Then tie it in a knot, right, and then pipe away. I think if you tie them all in a knot, you end up, you know, at some point you'll end up with some danger, particularly with ganache, because that starts to crystallise very, very quickly, and while you're piping, you'll find there's like big chunks of ganache trying to come out, and it's just so hard to recover from that, right? You want, when you're piping fillings, you want them nice and fluid, but ideally you want them under 29 degrees, right? Grange Chocolates, hello. There's a few names here that I haven't seen before. If you're new, welcome. If you've got questions, fire away. I'll try and answer best I can. So Chocolate Bomb Indulgence saying thank you everybody for the advice regarding return on investment. So I think this was a question that was posed about people asking for things, for donations, for raffles, and what happens is, and it was quite unanimous, I think, reading that on the Chocolate Chat page, on the Facebook page. People ask for things and say, oh well, I'll promote you, but the problem is it's not promoting to people, you know. I mean, we are inundated with people asking for stuff. It just doesn't end, right? And we have a carpet stance that we take on this, and it is that we've already allocated what we've donated for the year, and we don't have anything left in the budget to be able to donate to. If it was something like the Girl Guides, I mean, school's always the worst one. They say, like, you know, give us some chocolates and you'll get lots of new customers, and the problem is it gets tucked at a table at the back and nobody knows it's there and they can't see it because it's filled with all the other tray bakes and all the other stuff that gets thrown on that jumble sale tables. We don't do donations. It'd be lovely to think as a business that we can do that. We do certain things to schools and colleges. When it comes to the colours, we will donate things, but where it comes for donating a prize, it's not something we do. Where it's donations for, you know, we need something to fill goodie bags, it's not something we do because there isn't a return on that investment. So all it is essentially is just a massive freebie. And the people that are organising these things, I hope there's nobody here that does that, but all they're actually looking for is to fill those bags so they can get a little pat on the back, like, didn't you do well? Very rarely does it end up promoting your business. Very rarely do you get the opportunity to put your big banner up to say these goods were donated by this company. Actually, it's just anonymous, and it's a bag that they hand out at the end, because to attract footfall, they say there'll be goodie bags at the end, and they've promised something that they can't deliver, and they now, rather than sacrifice their own profits, they ask businesses to donate, and pretty reprehensible. Not my idea of promoting. So it's an interesting thread, that looking at people and how they answered, and quite unanimous, you know, quite unanimous in that not something we do. And I think you learn that early on in business. It's the ability to say no and walk away from something, but also your ability not to turn down every opportunity. And I think the skill is recognizing whether it's an opportunity or recognizing whether it's not an opportunity, and why would you stay and engage, or why would you walk away. And I think as you get further into business, you get better at doing that. It's no different really to people that do markets, right? And this will resonate with some people. You stand at more markets and you can spot who's buying, and you can spot who's just coming for a chat, right? And the art, I think, of shopkeeping is to recognise who's buying, and to recognise who's just come for a chat because they want to kill half an hour because the other half has gone for a walk to look at power tools, right? So I think enough said on that. But yeah, return on investment, you got to consider everything, right? But it was a really good question, and I think go and have a read of that on the Chocy Chat Facebook page, because there's some really great lessons there from people that have been producing for many years who have learned that lesson, right? Temper. That's Nell, I think, isn't it? I need to have a chat with Nell. I think we need to get Nell on for a chat, without a doubt. Chocolate Beyond. When do you get It's Black 280 gram back in stock, and what does it mean that a colour is A and B? I thought I needed to be backed up, but not B. I'm waiting on bottles being delivered. The factory's empty. I'm expecting them tomorrow, if not Monday, and then we'll just do a full stock of the big 280s. Where we were doing the new traceability system, I've tried to run it down as best I can, because there's a real different thing between labelling 3,500 bottles or labelling 47,000 bottles, right? Are you with me? I think you'd much rather, like, if you had to do full stock take, you kind of want to do it when it's at its lowest. And just some huge orders. I did a couple of top-ups late last night. The deep purple shimmers, so many people asking for that. If I'm honest, there are days like the black. I'm going to aim to get the black. Oh, I need that one. I'm going to explain the labels. I'm hoping by Monday. So yeah, we'll get the full range back in stock. Seems like my white. Some orders come through, and some orders come through, and they will take 100 bottles of white and just empty it, right? And that's what's available on the website, and there's nothing I can do about that. I can't really say to you, oh no, you can't have all of them. It's then for me to catch up, and with all the other things that we were doing this week, I made a tiniest batch of that deep purple shimmer just to do some orders last night, as soon as I can. The difference between A, B, and C on the colours and D, if you go onto the website and if you go onto the new website, and then I think it says, I think it's 4 slots along, and I think it says, it's not about, I can't remember what it says now off the top of my head, but basically there's some elements there on how to temper them, how to melt them, things to look out for, and then also there's a huge write-up on what is type A. So type A are translucent. They would need backing. Type B, generally, all of the type Bs don't need backing, so they will give a full opacity. For anybody that's using the negative stamps at the minute, and I had this chat with Paul Todd, who's doing them, and Marisha as well. If you spray the type A's first and then put the stamp in, you can clean it out and then back that with type B's. It gives you full opacity, and then you can just, so if you're careful how you select those, but you can have a look on the website. There's a full write-up of everything that's going on. The other things that I was delayed with this week, I said I'd do the Florentines, which I'll get done tomorrow. Done the recording, haven't done the editing, it ain't ready, apologies. I will get that done tomorrow without a doubt, because I think we're through the technical glitches this week. Fingers, toes, everything crossed. So I'll get that posted tomorrow. The girls are involved in that video as well, right? So we're just we're trying to edit it gracefully, right? There might have been some sentence enhancing from me. So trying to edit that carefully, but yeah, the Florentines is a really nice thing. I think it's nice to do, and it's my version of it, but it's a good shelf life one that remains very, very crispy. So I will show you, and it involves ingredients that you already have, because if you've got glucose and you've got butter and you've got sugar, which most of you probably will do, you can make some quite amazing products from those, and I'm going to show you some different versions of things that you can do summer months, just to make things a little bit interesting, right? What else? The Chocy Chat stickers I've yet to get to. The Chocy Chat stickers I've yet to get to. Everything's delayed. It's just one of those weeks, right? I think that answered that one on the type ABC, and then the bigger bottles I'll get back in stock this week, right? So. Andrew styling chocolates, pretty fancy chocolates, happy days. Yeah, Leanne saying, so that's happened to me when I've dragged the filling along the chocolate when capping, what a nightmare. There's no recovery for, and again, this goes back to, I always say, there's no bonbon police, right? Everybody's obsessed with getting their caps 1 mil. Okay, that's great in competition. Maybe if you're doing a very fluid, things like Ganduja and pralines, you can fill them almost, but they're quite solid, aren't they? So they cap really, really well. But things like ganache doesn't really dome unless it's a very, very thick one, but it should be fluid enough so that it fills that. So they're the ones you can get there. But things like caramel, you need to underfill them, and you're going to have a thicker cap. And as I said, there's no bonbon place. And I don't think I've ever given chocolates to anybody and they've gone, oh yeah, nice caps, James. I've got some chocolates here this week. I've got, shall have a look, I'll drag these straight out of the fridge and see what the caps look like. How's my capping? Is my capping good? They're not thick. Let's cut one in half, shall I? Just say how thick the caps are. These have been in the fridge, so bear with me. But that's how thick my caps are. So you can see the shell's really thin. My finger's all covered in colour. The cap, this is salt caramel, so the shell's really, really thin, right? but the cap's a little bit thicker because and they've been in the fridge, so they're not as liquidy as they could be, but it will stretch, right? So that they're very, very cool at the minute because that's a liquid filling. They're really not. I'm going to keep those out because I'm going to eat those. That's what's left of these. That's what's left of the cricket ones. They're the ones that they're little imperfections, little dents, little bits like where the chocolate didn't quite pipe across. You can see the brown line didn't quite go across. So pick out all the imperfections, and they're for me, us that don't share anything, never share anything. So yeah, with caramels, I just want to do the base a little bit thicker because it's liquid. I just want a much secure base to it because one, they're being transported, and two, they're going out for corporate things, right? So if it's a competition, no, I'd want to get those as thin as possible. I'll do the caramel thinner. I'll probably load the caramel up with cocoa butter so it pipes thinner, finds more level, and then, you know, so there's all sorts of tricks and trades. But if you overfill and you cap, there's no recovery. It's always bad, right? You end up with a lot of samples to eat. So, Susie Floozy, I can see you. Petite Man, I'm going to send some waves out. Strawberry Red, hello. How does everyone store their caramels when making in bulk? I tried to store them in Ziplocs, but it was a nightmare to take out and heat up again to pipe. No, Dochimara, put them in Ziplocs. So whether it's in a Ziploc, or whether it's in a vac pack, and I don't have any here, I put the whole bag into there, and then we will warm them gently so it's really fluid. We'll snip a hole on the end of that bag and we'll squeeze it all out, and then using one of these silicone scraper, these are for when you do grouting, right? When you scrape the piping bag, when you scrape plastic piping bags with silicone, you won't rip them. You can be absolutely as rough as you want, it won't rip the bag. So you're gonna squeeze out as much as you can into a bowl, fluid enough so you can get it out of the bag, scrape all the bag down, get all the excess out. You need to warm that to kind of 45, probably even 50 depending, and then we'll put a stick blender in, and then we'll just blend that and re-emulsify it, make sure it's proper smooth. That's also an opportunity if you wanted to thicken it a tiny bit more, and I do this regularly. If I make a caramel, the bigger the amount, the harder it is. You know, when we make, like for this one, I needed to do 28 litres of caramel, 28 litres of caramel, right? And that's it's 11.5 litres of cream and 11.5 kilos of chocolate, okay, of sugar to make that caramel, and then the rest is made up with chocolate, which is kind of getting close to 4 kilos, right? So all of that in total will get me near to that 28 kilos. Trying to cook that up to kind of 104, 105 is a real challenge. So you kind of need to split it down and boil it up, otherwise it just starts going out everywhere. Once I've made that caramel, we will blend the chocolate in. Occasionally you look at it and go, well, I've done the same recipe every single time, but it's a little bit thinner than normal. When I rewarm that caramel back, that's my opportunity to say, right, well, I'll put 2 kilos into here, and I might add 100 grams more of chocolate melted, and then we'll blend that through, and it will just give me a caramel that's just a little bit more dense, like that one, just a little bit more dense. So you can fix caramels after you've made them. You know, if you make, I've talked about this with that base caramel, that caramel ganache, salt caramel ganache. It's 200 cream, 200 sugar. We caramelise the cream with some salt. Put the salt into the cream, bring the cream to the boil, caramelise the sugar. Around about 180 is more than enough. 182 if you want it a little bit darker. Try not to go above 184 because it's a little bit too bitter. You'd have to have more salt to it. Then you choose the chocolate that you want, and I, 90 to 95 grams of caramelised chocolate in that mix absolutely works for me, and it's enough to fill that one mould. If I wanted to, I could add dark chocolate to it, in which case it probably wouldn't do the 95 because there's cocoa mass in there that's going to emulsify and thicken as well. So it might be we do like 65, 70 grams of a really dark chocolate, 75, 78, 8%. That'd give me a really dark caramel. And then I can reflavour that. So with caramels, you have got an option. You know how you make jam and you put some on a dish and you just see how it sets. I put caramel onto a plate, and certainly it's something I teach regularly. Certainly to kind of course students, is put that on a plate, put it somewhere cold, let it solidify, and then just see what it is that you've got, because you've got an opportunity to re-thicken caramel, and it's small amounts. 20 or 30 grams of chocolate added to a litre of caramel might be enough to take it from being too thin to cap to just perfect, right? And liquidy enough. So you could just write down your numbers so that you're not slack handful, right? We'll see how it goes. Because the next time you go to make it, you're like, oh, it's not quite, I don't remember what I did, right? So make notes all the time. But warm it to 45, 50 degrees and re-emulsify it, Dolce Moro, re-emulsify it with a stick blender, get it back super smooth, get it into the bag, lay it flat, cool it down, get it ready to pipe, right? If you want a very fluid caramel but you want one to set up more, you need to add cocoa butter. Because cocoa butter at 29 is quite fluid, and then it will set, but what you would need to do is blend that in really well, so all those droplets are well and truly dispersed within that caramel, right? So I've been politely saying no to all my requests for charity donations now, as I'm just getting multiple requests a week. It's unbelievable. The worst time of year is when it's school, like, you know, you've got a donation for the school, have you got a donation for this, donation for that, and you know, the places that ask for donations, they're never around when you're doing Christmas sales and all the rest of it, right? So it's very much, what can we get from you, but not what you can do, or what you can do for them, but not what they can do for you, right? So always a challenge, right? Nadia is saying good evening, James and Chocy Chat crew. Hello, Nadia. I need advice on spraying booth. Right now I use a large box wrapped in foil. Is it worth getting one even if it can't vent outside? I'll be using it in my garage. They are worth having, so the extractors are worth having, but it does need to vent outside. You need air being drawn out to take those fumes up, otherwise, you know, it can get a little bit misty. I think they are worth doing. I think so many people have manufactured their own. I know people that will literally, you know, you get the kitchen extractors above a hob. What they'll do is just put cardboard onto the side of that, and then something to cover the actual hob, turn the extractor on full, and they've got the lights like these ones. These are on a magnetic clips, okay? They're on magnetic clips. They will just put those, I put those inside my spray box, okay? Just so I can see what I'm doing a little bit easier. They are worth it, because I think that once you start spraying more than 2 or 3 moles, if you've not got the pressures right, all that mist goes up and eventually it all lands, and you'll just find that everything is just covered in this little glaze that just takes some time. It just keeps that down a little bit. Also stops all your fire alarms going off, right? I'm sure there's many people going, yeah, that happened to me, right? But the extractors normally have a hose on the back, and they really do need to vent outside, because it's the air being sucked out that's actually catching all those vapor in the cloth barrier, right? If you don't, it's probably not going to go up into the hood. You're just going to end up with the thing. So I rewatched Chocy Chat 122. God, that's a while ago. 122. That was a year ago, isn't it? Again this week, really helpful about costings. I had a query on wholesale costs. I will read. I don't know. Somebody mentioned I did the costings on that page, and then I put down, like, I think it was like £29 or £24 for a bag of 2.5, and somebody wrote on there this week, it's like, yeah, that's a dream, isn't it? Yeah, the pricing is getting silly. You know, I was expecting a better forecast report that came from the cocoa industry, so that's delayed. It's going to be another 10 days before that's released, so we'll see whether it goes down or not. Everybody's in the same boat, me included. You know, cocoa butter kind of doubled, trebled in price for me. You know, I do think for a lot of us it's a case of kind of weathering the storm a little bit. Be economical, don't waste. but you still got to make amazing, beautiful things, right? And sometimes it's better to just have a little bit less profit and secure additional sales, right? It can't always be everything's at 8% profit, right? So Ninja of Pastry, hello. Chocolate by Miss Witz joined us, hello. Some good answers here about the extractors. There's lots of there's not much you can do about mist. There's a real difference between, I see this regularly, people call it overspray, and it's not overspray, it's just mist that's going up. When we force air behind a liquid, it will create a vapor, and that vapor is what's going up in the air. Within that vapor is a tiny bit of colour. Overspray is where it's landing. I saw a video recently, and it's like they're spraying their mould and there's cocoa butter everywhere, and they're saying like this is minimum overspray, like look how, and it's like no, it's not, it's absolutely covered in overspray because you are spraying more than the area that you're aiming at, therefore it's oversprayed. If I went back to the days of you know, car spraying and crash helmets and airbrush 30 years ago, or air guns out 30 years ago, overspray was, you know, you're going to get your wages docked, because if you were paid to spray that area, they didn't want you spraying a foot round it, right? Because they're like, well, that's paint and I didn't pay for that. So overspray is where you're just spraying too much. You're spraying way beyond the area that you're actually aiming at. One of the things of overspray is, though, if it does land in all those places, you've got an option to scrape that off early and capture that, or you can wipe that off on a cloth. It's totally up to you how you recover it. I can tell you right now that when you're doing 150 moles, the overspray, even when we're doing small designs, I mean, I sprayed these completely red. You know, the overspray needs managing. So you can do it more accurately, but it takes you longer, or you can spray it very, very quickly and you need to capture the overspray because there's money in that. And that's the seesaw of profit and loss, isn't it? I can do it fast, but there's wastage, or I can do it slow and there's no wastage. That's what you've got to decide, right? Chocolate, yeah, I've read both on the web. Some colours are both A and B. Yeah, some colours are A, B, and C. If you take things like, if you take Aqua Shimmer as an example, so that's an A, B, and C. There are type Bs which are non-azo, so they're not synthetic. So black and white, they are natural ingredients. So that's why it will say just type A. And then there are type As that got a synthetic azo colour in there, and then it's got a type B in there. So Aqua Lagoon is an example. It's a type A fat soluble colour, but it's also got a B, so it wouldn't need backing. But both roughly would ruse at the same temperature. When they're single letters, that's when I think the temperatures come into account more. With type, if it was just a type A on its own, you can kind of spray down at a low temperature, 26. You can even drop as low as 25. It just, when it settles, it will stick much, much quicker. Once we get, certainly for my brand, once we get over that 30, like if you're spraying at 30 degrees, you're going to find pitted marks. We're trying to get a fat to stick to plastic, which is non-stick. Right, so if the mold is at the right temperature, it will stick and create a surface layer. If the mold is too warm or the butter's too warm, it won't stick, right? So type A you can use at low temperature. If it's a type A with B in there, what it means is that you could spray again at that normal temperature, but you wouldn't need to back it. It's really the decision you make on, do I need to back it, don't I need to back it, and what are the ingredients, right? So if it's a type A and B, I would go with, you know, I'd be using the butter at kind of 27 mark. If it's an A, B, and C, C just denotes that it's got a natural silicate mica in it, so it's going to have some sparkle. So what we don't want to do is use it too warm, because the warmer we use it, the more those little platelets lay flat, and you're not going to get the effect. Whereas if you use something like Fool's Gold, if you warm up fool's gold, once you go above 27, 28, all those little platelets of silicate mica, they sink. So when you spray, if it starts pooling, you're going to get a gold color, but not the reflection, right? So I try to make it as simple as I can, but they could have all of them in there. A and B is whether it needs backing or not. Type C is, well, that if it's got Type C in there, you want to be using that at the lowest temperature that you can get away with, so that you get the effect of that sparkle. Mighty Mint is an example of that. It's essentially a white with the green, blue and yellow colours in there, but then it has quite a big amount of silver in there to give us that sparkle. Nancy's Green is another one, but that contains a tiny amount of Type B. So we're trying to use them at the lowest temperature that we can get away with, and then for some of them in particular, Type Bs, you can temper them down to 26, but black is always better. If you take that down to 26 and just warm that ever so gently back to 27, and just make sure your mould is, even if you have to put the mould in the fridge for 30 seconds, you'll see that it sticks so much better. Type A's are fat soluble, whereas Type B's are suspension, so we've got all these little elements floating around, and if it's too warm, they sink. And that includes microscopically when we spray a layer. If your mould is too warm or your butter's too warm, when you spray it, it will sink and the colour will separate out because it's a suspension. So only chocolatiers each admire each other's capping. True story. True story. That's a nice story, Kerry. Linda and Jordan, hello. Let me scroll through. There's lots of new people here. If you've got questions, fire away if you start. If I use a liquid colour, what's the percent of cocoa butter? I have no idea. It depends on the colour and the law, and a lot of people assume 10%, and you couldn't be any further from the truth. Different countries, different legislation, different products, different purities, and that needs establishing. So it depends on the fat soluble or whatever colour that you've got. 10% is not the route to go. Trust me. Some of ours are down as low as 2% as a legal requirement, right? Darren saying greetings from Mallorca. Somebody off on holiday signing themselves. Flying Banana. Paul saying morning from a chilly Melbourne. Well, hello from a warm spring Hailing Island. So the blind chicken here. Oh, so Stuart's had somebody working this week. So I think I might end up with a work placement every year now. Happy days. You know what? All help is greatly appreciated. So Ellen's there. Hello, Ellen. So Jory's saying, thanks for your advice last weekend on shelling temps with the white chocolate. Managed to get it spot on the second time round. I'm planning to do a post this week. Okay, I am going to do the Florentines. Let me just put these away. Planning on doing the Florentines, right? So I read, and I love a chocolate myth. You know I love a chocolate myth, and I love that Chocy Chat crew love these just facing north, yellow trousers, blue dog. So it, and what I read, and it's somebody with, I'm going to say loosely, some reputation, right? But I just don't think they should have answered like this. And it was that all chocolates need tempering differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 5 varieties of chocolate, and I'm going to mix them all together so it will look like a kind of quite a mass, grey mass, and then I'll explain why all chocolates don't need tempering differently. Chocolate's chocolate, whether it's milk, white, dark, ruby, caramelised, doesn't matter. Chocolate's chocolate, right? Different nuances, different flavour, different flavonoids, different all sorts of different compounds and enzymes and flavonoids within them. The only thing that we're actually tempering is the cocoa butter. And if it's got cocoa butter in, we have an option to do type 1, 2, 3 or 4. And this is a post that I did the other day, and it's the reel that says some things just need to be better explained, right? Crystals 1, 2, 3 and 4 all melt, I think, below 29 degrees. Kind of who cares? We're not interested in crystals type 1, 2, 3 and 4. If you want to go and read about them, fill your boots, you go for it. Once we melt chocolate over 33.8, nothing magical happens, right? Admittedly, the 6th crystal, which comes from the 5th crystal, that melts at 36 degrees, which is why when you make chocolate and you put it in your hand, you're thinking, well, that should be a little bit more stable. But if you get chocolate that's been tempered and crystallized and in a bar form, and then you look at that in 4, 5, 6 weeks time, it's like concrete to break, right? That's because over time those crystals are continuing to bind up. It's so microscopic, it's so small that they're nano measurements, right? The only thing that we're tempering is the cocoa butter. Crystals 1, 2, 3 and 4 are fats and sugars that were in chocolate, and we know they're in there. We know what temperatures. Science tells us what temperatures they melt at. Not difficult to see that. Great, who cares? Once we melt chocolate to 34, we've melted all the beta crystals. We've melted all the crystals that could be present in there. Then we've got an option to add the crystals in at the right temperature so that they don't melt. So melt chocolate to whatever temperature you want to melt it to. This is an example, this stuff here, right? Melt the chocolates, those are beta 6 crystals, right? These ones are from, these are 14th of April, so they're getting on for being a month old now. The beta 5 crystals that are in there have now kind of become beta 6, which is why it's so difficult to melt these blocks, right? For the people that bought these and said, well, I'll cut a chunk off and I'll put it into my wheelie, good way to temper. The challenge is it just doesn't melt very easily because we've got beta crystal 6 that melts at 36 degrees. So unless your chocolate is at 36 degrees, you're going to really challenge, which is why we need to grate it into smaller pieces so that we've got a better melt properties in it, right? Chocolate's chocolate. If it's got cocoa butter in it, we can get it to the 5th form of crystal. So they're all lines. We think that they're long lines, polymorph chains, right? They're not. They technically then we explain it that way so people can kind of visualize it. What they are long lines, and then what comes off them is these little hooks, right? What comes them off is these kind of little hooks. So that's what binds everything up. That's the beta 5 crystals, and then over the period of time, 48, 72 hours out after it's crystallized, it starts forming that 6th crystal. You can't get the 6th crystal unless you've got the 5th crystal. And crystals 1, 2, 3 and 4, who cares? Because they melt below a threshold where chocolate's usable. If you technically melted chocolate to 29 degrees, you might have beta crystals in there, but crystals 1, 2, 3 and 4, they've gone. But you didn't need them anyway, so they don't really matter, right? So I'll do an explanation of that because I love demystifying it. I just found it quite abrupt that somebody would answer and say all varieties of chocolate need tempering in a different way. There are different methods of tempering, but there are not different styles and temperatures of tempering. We know what crystals are doing. It's not something I invented. We've known about these crystals for a long time, right? So many years. Actually, I think everything we need to know about chocolate we kind of already know. I'll do a post for that next week, and I'll do the Florentines tomorrow, I promise. Like, if I don't, I'll have to go on the naughty step, wouldn't I? So, but I'm glad that's, listening to the information. Somebody else sent me something this week. She's a doctor. She's a fertility doctor, and her name escapes me at the minute. But she was shelling at too low a temperature, and it's literally every single tray of chocolate that she turned out, colour was stuck in the mould. And when I said, what temperature are you shelling at? It was 29 degrees for everything. And the answer was, I'm doing what it says on the side of the bag. And you heard me say, I should get a petition together to say, like, remove this information from the side of the bag because it's absolutely irrelevant. That went on the side of the bag. I swear that went onto the side of the bags. It's like, what can we put in that space? Oh, do you know what? Stick a graph there. right? Because even the chefs that work in those companies can't tell me what the dots and the blank, right? It's like, so why put it there? It's confused. Anybody that's a beginner in chocolate is just totally confused, right? Victoria, a friend of mine there. I'm gonna read through. There's lots of people having chats. Linda there, Art Chocolate. How are you? I'm good, thank you. Gina, just tried a rare Criollo chocolate from an amazing local New Zealand maker of $26 a bar. With some nice chocolate and friends, but I'm not going to name them. Definitely not. Ruth is saying several of us in the group will be at the workshop in Austin, and we will try to join you next Friday and show you what we're up to. Ruth, I tell you what, you can join if you want to. If you are in the workshop next week, you can join the live for a couple of minutes and we can say hello to everybody. And this is the e-gullet forum that Ruth and Kerry talked about. That it's a whole, like, kind of before Facebook and all the rest of it, there used to be these forums, and they're kind of all meeting up in Austin, Texas. I sent them some colours, samples down, so they're going to have a play with all of those bits. But yeah, if you want to, give us a shout, we can see what you're up to, right? I'm sure there's going to be a few Chocy Chat crew people there, so... yeah, Kerry, easy temper. I'm going to explain something I got this week, right? And I haven't messaged Billy. Because I got a little bit busy. We got really, really busy. And when you do 7 a.m. starts and then you do 3 a.m. finishes, I don't really like doing 21, 22 hour days, but that's the deal. Billy sent me these. This is Scottish tablet, okay? The other thing Billy sent me is these. And these are the covers. These are the covers to go over the blue switch on the Easy Temper. And he is the best guy. I tell you what, Chocy Chat people are just the most incredible people I've ever come across, right? And I say that absolutely genuinely. And I think people forget that I'm Chocy Chat crew as well, right? I sit here and I chat, but it's all of us, isn't it? It's not just me. I don't do this to promote me. I do this to help you guys, because the only way I can pay back and say thank you for supporting us is to sit here on Friday nights for 178 weeks and share. But like, do you know how generous people are in Chocy Chat? We're sharing stuff and sharing resources and lending things and doing all that kind of stuff. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, Billy's made me a load of these because I've got 3, 6. I've got 9 of those. So I need to ask Billy whether I will put those out. But these are little covers that he's 3D printed that go over the blue button, because I am forever knocking that blue. And I did when I talked to Kerry, and I've talked to Kerry since, because we had a little bit of a chat about the new machine. Not even in production yet, so don't even ask me about that. But we were talking about some of the aesthetics and bits and pieces to do with that machine, and it was like, oh yeah, the dreaded blue button. And then Billy printed one of those, and I said yes please, and then I got this parcel through the door going, I have no idea what that is. And so Billy, thank you. I will send him a personal note and a thank you anyway. But you'll know Billy from Scottish Chocolates. He's just off doing his thing. I think if he took up being chocolatiering full time, I think he'd be incredibly successful. but he doesn't want to because he's got a big job in IT, and he's very settled up in there in Scotland, and he makes stuff for his neighbours and all the rest of it, and he really enjoys it, and he's very tech minded. He's certainly answered so many questions for me over the years on how we do, and he shares files for 3D printers. He does all this stuff. Just another genuine person in Chocy Chat that just wants to see people do well and get on with their businesses, and if we can contribute in helping, that's what Chocy Chat is, right? So we've got Scottish tablet, which if you think it's like fudge, a little bit sweeter, not cooked to such a high temperature, but I had to hide that because the girls were nibbling it, right? But yeah, Ruth, if you want to do that, you can definitely give us a shout, and I will. He is. Billy's there. I didn't see him earlier. Keep you alive through the. Stuart's saying, I love a stupid idea. Do you know the simplest solution is always the best? I've been in this industry a long time, right? And I think the things that stood the test of time are the most simple ideas, right? We have a can opener in the industry. It's called a bonza, and this thing was kind of invented in the 1890s, and we still use exactly the same. It's for opening big cans, right? But it was kind of 1890s. It was used for opening fold over pockets because it was tins that were then spot welded over the top. But what they realised is, like, when the canning process came in the kind of early 1930s, you could do this, turn the handle, and like 2 turns, you open a can, and they're in every kitchen, and it's never ever changed, and it's the simplest idea, and every kitchen has one, right? We love a little bit of a bonza. First thing the environmental health officer looks at when they walk into a kitchen, like, they lift up that, look at the underneath, and go, when did you clean that last, right? Anybody have a contact magic temper? Chocolate spicy, isn't that? Oh no, that's not Rich Bordeaux. Yes, I do. Is there a problem with your machine? Because I thought it was sold. I don't think it's sold through the brand Magic Temper. It's sold through another market, isn't it? Not one that I owned. We had a look at them, but I just kind of looked at them. Why do I want to spend £4,500 on a tempering machine when I have 7 or 8 easy tempers, and that's enough for me. Yeah, I can't think of the. I was going to say Tomric Systems, but that's not. That's where Chris is there this week, up in Buffalo. Sophia's come to grab chocolate.
No.
You having a bonbon?
No.
Oh. Do you want that? Come say hello.
Hi, Chocy Chat.
That's yours.
Oh, thank you. I'll also take one of these.
Do you want that one?
Absolutely lovely.
Oh, I dropped that one on the floor. Oh, I didn't really. I didn't really drop it on the floor. I'd never feed my children stuff that'd fallen on the floor. Billy did a video for me on how to make the tablet last summer. It was a real hit with my customers. It's on the Chocy Chat Facebook page if anybody's interested. Billy's the optimum of Chocy Chat. But Kelly, I think you are as well. And you know, there's a few other with Paula that helps people. And I know Temper is just anybody that's got vegan questions they answer. There's so many. Erin, that's up in Portland, is there are so many people in Chocy Chat that, through completely unselfish acts of trying to help other people, and they're not worried about competition, they're not worried about anything other than to see and see people succeed. And if I'm honest, I think the world needs a little bit of this. Somebody I would talk to somebody this week, and they're like, you should go on Dragon's Den. Like, why would I go on Dragon's Den? Why would I give away 50% to somebody that just, why would I do that? I wouldn't ever do that. I'd never go to investors. I'll work until I've made my own money. I'm not going to put it into a shareholder. It's the opposite of what I believe in, right? We will all get better together, right? All of us. Especially Billy's sending me like chocolate. Mo sent me cakes. I've had so much stuff. Paula sent me so much stuff. Bitology sent me stuff, and we've just got endless chats. We've got the chocolate from the 2 young girls that are in Puerto Rico, so we've got that videoed, and we're going to go through all those tasting notes, and we're going to create a huge reel that's going to go across onto a couple other platforms as well, and then I'm going to try and get them on one night to do a Chocy Chat as well. So Scottish tablet, the dentist's best friend, it's quite sweet. How long before? They're at the door queuing. I've been hiding that all week. It's amazing to see people progress and do all those bits. I wanted to just explain these labels because time is escaping today. When you get these, there is a QR code on it. That QR code is not for you, that's for me. It's got the name on the top, and then it's got, as usual, it's got the name on the top and then the ingredients, and it tells you whether it's azo or non-azo. The type will say it's ABC, and then it's got on the bottom there, it's got the batch number. The batch numbers have changed significantly because they're all electronically done, and every single bottle has a different QR code. So I know the other system that we had was okay. This is magic system, right? So I scan all the orders out, and I can tell you where it went, who had it, where it was posted, tracking number of the posting, all of it, including all the ingredients and where it came from, when it was delivered, where it came from, that batch code and where that batch code went from. Full traceability system. But you might find that there are some bottles that have got a couple of labels on. Let me see. Baby Blues is an example. Rather than go through and peel off all the old labels, what we did is we took the batch number and of the previous batch, and we had to reload that, and that's why we had a little bit of a technical hitch, right? So you might find some bottles that have got 2 labels on. Don't worry too much. As the bottles get replaced, it will just end up being 1 label. But you might find some that are, what's that got? Yeah, that one, I mean, you can just see through it at the minute. You can slightly see the. So don't be alarmed if you see a label. I haven't over-labelled it. What I've done is put a new label on it with a QR code, and the QR code, if you scan that with your phone, it won't tell you anything. It'll just come up with a load of random. It'll come up with some absolute random numbers for you. But for my system, that's Dimension, that's through, like I said, the developers have rewritten big elements of this program for us to be able to do certain things that I wanted it to do. We did buy an off-the-shelf system, but then I said, yeah, but I want it to do this, and this, and this, and the developers are like, I have to write some code to make that happen. But I'm a little bit demanding, but I think I'm allowed to be, because we are growing a brand and a business, and this goes off all over the planet, and they need to make sure that we can know, I can go back 3 years and tell you who had what, where and when, and what the things was. So are there any of my colours that aren't vegan? No, they all are. There was some, some of the pinks have got E122 in it, but it's a synthetic one, not a cochineal one, which always caused some issues with the Austrian authorities over that, because they were adamant that E122 wasn't a synthetic dye, but like once you send them all the paper, they're like, oh yes, I see. No, they're all vegan, 100% vegan, absolutely 100% vegan. And you can have a look on whether they're azo, non-azo, natural, TI free, all of that. You can search for all of that on the website. So got stopped at Heathrow security for trying to take my Icy Cocoa through. Had to check the bag because they would not accept that cocoa butter is solid. Yeah, I know there's a few people that have happened to. One in the Middle East had to put all of his in the bin, which is just kind of like, they're like, no, it's not safe to carry. Which is, it's only if it wasn't lost. There's only like 2 or 3 small bottles, and they'd already been used and opened and melted, so they probably looked a bit bad. And then another one, I think it was at Gatwick. They were going back to the Netherlands, and they wanted to scratch it to take a sample, and then they were told that maybe the cocoa butter's not good because it's solidified. But I don't expect port authorities to understand the difference between what is tempered and what is not tempered. Cocoa butter at room temperature is solid, and when it's tempered, it's absolutely rock hard like concrete, right? So Who knows? Chocolate by Miss Sweet. You're going completely nut free. Quite that's a challenge. Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, Julia Ritchie's right. It's Nicholas. He is involved with Magic Temper, but it's sold under a different brand. It's a different company name, so I can't remember off the top of my mind. I do chat to Nicholas occasionally because we worked at the similar place. It was Michelle Brass. It was a 3 Michelin star Michelle Brass. Although I worked there many years before him, we were talking about the gardens and all that kind of thing. That was a brutal kitchen. Not the hardest kitchen I've ever worked in, but that was a brutal kitchen, right? You know, these kind of places that just don't look. You know, you go to show homes and you're afraid to sit down in case you put a crease on a cushion. Michelle Brass's kitchen, everything's on push cupboards, right? And it's really highly polished, like vinyl. So to open the cupboard, you got to push it. But when you close the cupboard, you need to have a little cloth in your hand, and you've got to buff your finger mark off because all the customers can walk through. What they don't want to do is see. We spent more time buffing the corners, and literally when you went to open the door, you just press it on the tiniest bit on the bottom. Otherwise, you get people stagiaires come down and just do a massive handprint, and it's like, yeah, we're all here at 3 a.m. polishing the doors so that they can look shiny. They gave you a voucher. I told them they would need to chisel to break it up, but no luck. They did give me a £5 voucher for my wow. Just wow. Do we deliver to South Korea? No, we don't. We deliver to the Philippines. I think if you've got an order that you'd like to do, we don't ship to every country. Not possible. There's no reason why we can't get it to South Korea, because we send stuff to the Philippines and we sent stuff to Thailand and we sent stuff to lots goes to Japan. I think send us to do chocolates. Send us an email. You just get our email. Send it to sales@sosassychocolate.co.uk. Send us an email and roughly what you think, and then we can do an order and go round it that way, right? So there's always we don't ship to every country. Some countries don't ship to simply because the postal system is so poor that like orders go missing. There's two countries in particular, I'm not going to name them, but we don't ship there because every order we've sent, the product is gone missing, and then the customer we've got to refund. I don't get the product back, and it's a double hit. And when it happens once, you're like, oh, okay, you've got to take it, haven't you? When it's happened 3, 4, 5 times, you're like, right, not shipping there anymore. Yeah, some countries are, you know, we talk about third world and we shouldn't, but there are countries in Europe that just got the poorest postal system that just we just don't ship there. It's just not worth. But then, you know, I talk to other companies, EU, and they're like, yeah, we don't ship there either. Not chocolate ones, but other industry manufacturers. They're like, yeah, we don't ship there either because the stuff gets smashed, damaged, or so. You know, if we don't ship to your country, certainly send us an email and we can come up with something to see if we can solve that for you. So, it is 8:33. It's not. It's 9:33. It's 9:34 now. And also to do chocolates. Yeah, welcome to Chocy Chat. I've got a lot to do this week. I need to catch up. I've got some social media stuff to do. I've got recipes that I'll share with you. I've got colours to make. It's going to be another busy week. What else did I want to say? I think that's it. Thank you everybody for Chocy Chat and just being amazing people. I did have a bit of time this week where I sat down, had a cup of tea in the garden and read through all the comments, and whilst I don't go on and answer as much as I'd like to, I'm quite in awe of how hospitable and how friendly everybody is to each other. I certainly think we're a very unique group of people in industry, and it's Chocy Chat because it's actually a thing, isn't it, right? Have an amazing week. I'm going to get some sleep. I'm not. I'm going to go and eat Billy's chocolate. Chef snacks. I will. I'll see everybody next week. You got questions? Fire them over. I will get stocked up fully. have a think about diversifying your products. If you're not making chocolate, what other things that could you make? All right, and I think you know, now's the time to just adapt a little bit, and we're going to go through the warmer months. You know, chocolate sells. Just don't make it complicated, and lower the amount of choice that you have to get through these next couple of months, and it'll go quick. It's the 9th of May today. We're nearly halfway through the year. You know, if you think back to the start of January, that's what we got left to do again before we start doing Christmas stuff, right? It's going to whip by really, really quickly. So I will catch you all next week. We'll get some guests. Hopefully we'll have Ruth to chat to next week. And I'm going to line up some other guests as well. I need to do a bit more of that because people seem to like that. So have an amazing week. I will see you in a few hours for episode 179, right? Thank you for joining, and I will post this almost immediately onto YouTube so you can get a better view of that. So give us a like, give us a follow. All of that stuff counts, right? Have an amazing week, everybody.